Hello and welcome to the AmeriCorps orientation. So this webinar is meant to be either a refresher course where members that have already done the training, or if you haven't done the training and you are new to Equal Heart, then this is meant to be a training for you as well over the AmeriCorps program, rules and regulations and expectations of what we have for our AmeriCorps members. So jumping right in, we're going to go into AmeriCorps 101, going over what is AmeriCorps. So AmeriCorps is a national community service program funded by the government agency, CNCS. So annually, over 8,000 Americans serve in nonprofits, public agencies, community organizations. So for example, Equal Heart is a nonprofit that places AmeriCorps members to make a difference within the community. AmeriCorps history. So AmeriCorps has been around for quite some time. So in 1933, the Civilian Conservation Corps got started by President Franklin D. Roosevelt in a way of having a relief during the Great Depression. And then in 1961, the Peace Corps was enacted by President John F. Kennedy. So this was a way of making a difference in third world countries and just countries in need. And John F. Kennedy did have a hope that one day we'd be able to bring it home. So VISTA and AmeriCorps is kind of a domestic Peace Corps. So VISTA in 1964, which is Volunteers in Service to America, was started by President Lyndon Johnson. Then in 1993, CNCS and AmeriCorps was started by President Bill Clinton. In 1994, the first AmeriCorps member served, and in 2015, the first AmeriCorps member served through Equal Heart. So the CNCS umbrella, just so you have an understanding of what it looks like and where you fall in it. So CNCS stands for the Corporation National and Community Service. Underneath that, it has two tiers. So one is Senior Corps. So Senior Corps is focused on older individuals that are interested in giving back to the community, while AmeriCorps is any age range that is interested in giving back to the community. So underneath AmeriCorps, there are three different types of service types. So VISTA, Volunteers in Service to America, is typically a year-long term, doing more of the behind-the-scenes activities rather than directly working with the community. While the National Civilian Community Corps, the NCCC, is more of on-the-ground grunt work, so doing conservation activities, or if there's natural disaster, doing more of the gut and cleanup work of that. So for all AmeriCorps members that serve with Equal Heart, you are a state and national member. So AmeriCorps exists to strengthen communities, develop members, and get things done. So definitely by placing AmeriCorps members in communities of need, they're able to get things done, whether that's related to food, poverty, or just health, so like health awareness. But also at the same time, we want to develop our members. So a portion of the money that you receive is through an educational award. So definitely helping you further your own education, and also just some professional development throughout your term of service as well to help you be a more rounded candidate if you're interested in doing nonprofit work or just really more community advocacy, anything like that. So Equal Heart was founded in 2014. So our mission is to support people in times of adversity. Our vision is that misfortune is overcome through shared response, because the humanity and courage in each individual is recognized. So our path is to first recognize that each person, no matter their circumstance or birth or fortune, is created equal. That in our hearts we all have the same dreams, aspirations, and hopes for ourselves and our children. So Equal Heart does a couple of different things. So we do place AmeriCorps members through other nonprofits. So we do manage a grant that way. And then we also do summer and after-school meal sponsor in Texas, Arkansas, Arizona, California, and Colorado. And then also in Dallas, we operate a year-round mobile food pantry that takes groceries to apartment communities in need. So just so you have an understanding of Equal Heart's role compared to your site's role. So, and what we mean by your site is the actual location that you're going and serving every single day. So Equal Heart staff will be processing your AmeriCorps paperwork, so all that lovely member service agreements, your W-4, your reasonable accommodations, everything like that, that gets processed through the Equal Heart staff. Ensuring that you're in AmeriCorps compliance, that is something we manage as well, so making sure you're wearing your AmeriCorps logo, you're not doing any prohibited activities, collecting your timesheets for your education awards, so making sure that you are tracking your hours and you are hitting your hours just about on target. That's something that we monitor. Distributing your living allowances, so we are the one that process your pay. So whenever you have pay issues or anything like that, you'll definitely be in contact with this. Questions about specific AmeriCorps questions. So if you're interested in doing another term or if you're interested in other programs, you can definitely come and ask us. So your site will give you more site-specific training. So if you're looking at how to manage a kid when they're having a mental breakdown, then that'll be more of a site-specific question. They're going to give you the daily supervision. So if you are coming in late, then it'll be good to let them know since they're going to be the ones that are going to be impacted most importantly. They approve your timesheet. So after you submit your timesheet, it'll be sent to your supervisor and they will be approving it. They set your schedule, so if you need a certain time off or if your class is getting out a little bit later on a certain day, you'd be talking to your direct site supervisor. And then, of course, they answer your day-to-day service questions. So if you have questions about a student that you're working with, or if you have questions about how to take intake of a grocery input or anything like that, then you can definitely ask your site supervisor. So AmeriCorps lingo. The AmeriCorps is a little bit different. We do have some special lingo to go along with it. So you're not employees or volunteers, you are members. You're all AmeriCorps members. It is very important that you remind staff on site as well as other volunteers there that it is important that you are an AmeriCorps member. You do not work, you serve. So this is a little bit different. Again, this is the service opportunity. So the hours that you log are served hours. You don't earn a wage, and most importantly, you are not paid by the hour. You receive a living allowance for serving. So this means that no matter the amount of hours that you serve, then you would receive an amount that is the same amount every single 2 weeks. That's really important. We'll definitely get into it a little bit more a little bit later. So AmeriCorps is not a job. AmeriCorps is more than a job, it is service. So again, this is not a typical job. It is a service opportunity, so you are serving. So let's get into the paperwork. So this should be everything that has already been taken care of through DocuSign. Of course, if you have any questions about it further than what we're covering right now, feel free to shoot us an email and we'll definitely respond back to you as soon as possible. So your member service agreement is part of your paperwork. So your service agreement is kind of like your contract. It covers your terms of service, your benefits, responsibilities, conduct, standards of conduct, and rights as a member. So your term details can be found in your member service agreement. So it is going to tell you the amount of total hours that you need to serve along with your start date and end date. So it's very important that you remember that your AmeriCorps term is your service hours plus your service dates. So you must serve all your hours and serve until your end date. And it's your responsibility to keep track of your hours. We do send you reminders, especially if you're falling behind. And if you fall drastically behind, we will create a service plan to where you to where you can track exactly how you're going to make up those hours and see if it actually is reasonable. But it is very important that you remember that for you to successfully complete your AmeriCorps term, you must serve all your service hours and serve until your end date. So that means if your end date is in May 1st and you reached your total end hours by April 25th, you must continue serving until May 1st to be able to successfully complete your term of service. So very important that you remember that. Okay, your education award, the exact amount will also be found in your member service agreement, must be completed. You must complete your entire term. Again, that is the total hours and the entire length of your term, so finishing out to your end date to receive your education award. If you stop serving before your end date, even if you completed your hours, again, even if you completed your hours, you forfeit your education award. That is very important to remember. So how your education award works, you have 7 years to use it. After your term, it'll be sent to your My AmeriCorps account. You'll fill out an online form to send it to your school or your loan servicer. If you are over the age of 55 as on your start date, you are eligible to transfer it to some relatives, especially children, grandchildren, foster children. I think it really is just limited to children. Okay, your term details, living allowance. So again, you can find the exact amount in your member service agreement on that first page, but you must serve at least 1 day within the pay period to receive your full living allowance portion. If you do not submit your timesheet, we cannot release your pay. We must know that you have certified and submitted that you have served at least 1 hour within that timesheet. If we don't receive the timesheet, then obviously we can't do that. So we will be holding your pay as a paper check, and we'll release the pay as soon as we do get the timesheet. We'll go into that a little bit more detail later on. So how it works, your total living allowance amount is broken down into set payments over a length of your term. So the member receives a set amount every 2 weeks. Something very important to remember is this is an amount before taxes are deducted from your living allowance. So if you are concerned because you're getting a lower amount than what you originally had anticipated, make sure that whenever you do get your checks, you are looking at the pay stubs and looking at the net amount compared to the gross amount and seeing how much is deducted from taxes and just making sure that you are receiving the right amount that you were supposed to receive. And of course, pay is issued every other Friday, the Friday following the Monday that your timesheet is due. We'll definitely go into that a little bit more detail later on. The minimum qualifications, so you must pass your background check to be an AmeriCorps member, and we cannot issue pay without this being completed. So that means that you must do your FBI fingerprint and your SOPWs and National Sex Offenders check, and then also doing your data service check. So all those must be done. So we do these through FieldPrint and TrueScreen. So both of those items must be completed before we are able to start counting your hours. And if you have any questions about that, just feel free to reach out. But typically we are very much in communication with all of our members, especially leading up to their start date, about getting these items completed. That is why it is so important to get these items completed, because we cannot start counting those hours or issuing pay until those items are done. So service requirements and benefits. So you are only paid for active periods of service, so you must serve at least 1 day within the pay period to receive the living allowance. Your term equals the total amount of hours plus the duration of service, so serving until your end date. If you leave service before your end date, even if you have all your hours, you forfeit your education award. Standards of conduct. So this is just our gist. Definitely communicate with your site and figure out what are their standards of conduct as well. This is just what we expect of our members as a guideline. So to be respectful, to follow basic site and program rules, always let your supervisor know if you're going to be late or absent. Don't come to your site under the influence. Wear appropriate clothing. And then you must always, no matter what type of what kind of clothing you must wear to your site, you must always be wearing your AmeriCorps logo while counting hours. So prohibited activities, things that you cannot do while counting hours. We're not too worried about what you're doing on your weekends or at your leisure time, but definitely these are things that are not allowed in any capacity while you're counting hours or identifying yourself as an AmeriCorps member. So attempting to influence legislation, engaging in partisan political activities, including voter registration, organizing or engaging in protest petitions, lobbying, union organizing, engaging in religious instruction, conducting worship service, operating facilities devoted to religious worship, provide or refer people to abortion services, specific fundraising, clerical duties that are not program related, disciplining other members. So something that we get questions asked about quite frequently are the specific fundraising. So there is no fundraising that can be allowed for AmeriCorps members to do, even if the money is going directly to the program. Other AmeriCorps, if you do serve with other AmeriCorps programs, you might have seen it a little bit differently, but through Equal Heart, we do not allow any fundraising at all. Just because it gets into a real gray area, and we just rather be safe than sorry. And then another thing that we have quite a bit of questions about is the clerical duties. So if you are taking intake for your program, or if you're doing data directly related to children's success in the program, anything related directly to the individuals that you're working with, then that is fine. But for example, if the payroll officer is out and you are an accounting major and they just ask you to do the payroll, this one time for the whole organization, that is not allowed. So again, you could do it on your own time, but you cannot be counting hours towards that. You cannot be counting that towards AmeriCorps hours at all. Okay, so Section 6, Termination and Suspension. So we're going to go over termination first. There's two different ways that you can be exited, either one as compelling personal circumstance or the second one for cause. So cause, you would receive none of your education award and you may not be allowed to serve again. So typically cause is used if any serious breach of rules of conduct or if you just drop out of the program, but it's within your choice. So for example, if you decide to take on a different job and this isn't the right fit for you and you have to leave this job to continue on with the next one, we would have to exit you for cause. Another common example we have is if you are going back to school, then and you have to leave your term early to be able to go back to school, we would have to exit you for cause since it is in your control about when you're going back to school, and you should already know those dates. Now, a compelling personal circumstance, you may receive a portion of your education award. You must have served at least 10% of your total amount of hours to be eligible for it. And then along with that, it will be prorated about the amount, based off of the amount of hours that you served. So for example, if you served 50% of your hours, you would receive 50% of your education award. And of course, personal compelling circumstance is something that is beyond your control. So if your family is in the military and they have to move and you have to move with them, that is something out of your control. You could be exited for compelling personal circumstance. If you have a death in the family that impacts you to where you can't serve anymore, you could be exited for compelling personal circumstance. If you have an illness in the family and now you have to be the primary caregiver to that family member, that can be, again, a compelling personal circumstance. Most importantly, though, we do have to have documentation of this, and we'll definitely, if this does occur, we'll be reaching out to you about what that documentation looks like. But it is very important that if you might be looking at exiting this type of route, that you start having very solid evidence from the very beginning, because that's the very next thing we're going to be asking for. So service suspension. Your service may be suspended if you are charged with a felony during service, if you're absent without notification after 3 days, if you're unable to accumulate service hours for an extended period of time, or any other serious breach of AmeriCorps rules of conduct. Most importantly, you do not receive your living allowance during suspension, so you would not receive your pay during that time. So just additional sections, non-duplication and non-displacement. So your position does not duplicate service or displace an employee or volunteer. Grievance policy, if you wish to contest a program decision, you may file a formal grievance, and you can see Appendix A for grievance procedures. A drug-free workplace, convictions of any drug charge must be reported immediately. Possession or use of a controlled substance is prohibited at a site. And then reasonable accommodations. You all have filled out the reasonable accommodations form. At any point, if you would like to update that information, just feel free to reach out to us, and we can definitely get you over a new form throughout the year. So no employer-employee relationships. You are not eligible for unemployment benefits or workman's compensation. Member consent. So you are responsible for feeling comfortable and safe during your service. You grant permission to us to use your name, photo, and video in promotions. And 13, civil rights and non-harassment. We have zero tolerance for harassment of any individual or group for any reason. Discrimination claims must be brought to our attention within 45 days. Now, everybody should have access to a position description. It covers your primary duties and responsibilities. Along with that, it has a disaster relief notice in there. In the event of a local, state, or federal disaster declaration, AmeriCorps members may be asked on a volunteer basis or required to activate to assist in national and disaster response and recovery activities within their communities. So an example of this for Texas is during Hurricane Harvey or after Hurricane Harvey, AmeriCorps members within the Dallas area were activated to help man a phone line. So they were answering phone calls about the type of services that were needed, and also just corresponding within the phone bank, leaving notes about where the people were at and what kind of need they need to be addressed. And then the comments that they left in the phone calls would be taken in, and then the actual responders that were on the ground would go in and address those needs. Another way that members served more directly was manning the shelters that were set up here in the Dallas area. So those are two different ways that members served in a disaster relief scenario. Member Assistance Program, also referred to as MAP. So this is a confidential free service and is available 24/7 to all members. So you just have to call into the 1-800-HELP number and you'd be eligible just by letting them know that you're an AmeriCorps member for unlimited phone conversations with a master's degree level counselor. You can also request the same counselor if you do call more frequently. Just make sure you have an understanding of their schedule, since they do just work off of a schedule basis, but you can speak to the same person consistently. And also, if you're looking at just more things to help you, like if you're interested in signing up for SNAP or food stamps, or if you're looking at maybe healthcare type of options, you can definitely call them and they can walk you through that as well. Okay, payroll documents. So we're going to go ahead and cover payroll documents, and right after that, we're going to go through how to submit your timesheet. So your W-4, which would have been completed through DocuSign, So let us know how much federal income tax you want withheld from your biweekly living allowance. It's very important that you actually understand what you're putting in, because it actually affects the amount that you're receiving in your biweekly check, and then it also affects the amount of taxes that you're going to either owe or that you'll get back at the end of the year. So paper checks versus direct deposit. We hate paper checks, and the reason why we say this is because not only does it take longer to get to you, so we issue them the same time that we issue all our other pay, but they are printed on Tuesday or Wednesday of that week. We put them in the mailbox then. It can take a week to a week and a half to get to you through normal postage mail. And then from there, it could still be lost. So if that check is lost, we have to cancel that check, issue a new check. And again, it can take another week to a week and a half to get to you. And along with that, oftentimes paper checks just can get really hard to keep control of. So we do prefer direct deposit. If throughout any time you do want to make the switch from being on a paper check to a direct deposit, then just let us know and we'll have you fill out the online payroll enrollment form again, just requesting the change. Of course, any other changes, if you're changing banks or if you are wanting to go from direct deposit to paper checks, then you'll be filling out the same form as well. Okay, Timesheets 101. So the basics, again, the timesheet means that we will be holding your pay and issuing it as a paper check once we do receive the timesheet. So even if you do have direct deposit set up, if we had to hold your pay, it will be issued in a paper check. So it has to be completed bi-weekly. It's due at 5 p.m. every other Monday. If late, again, we will hold your pay. It has to be checked and signed by your supervisor. The website is right here at AmeriCorps.org. Okay. It's very important to remember that address. You'll be using it quite frequently. You can access it through a smartphone or a computer. It'll probably be best to save that address. If you're able to save it onto your desktop, it'll probably be the smartest thing to do. So nitty-gritty on time. Only actual hours served, so no holidays, sick, vacation, inclement weather days. So that means only the actual hours that you are at your site serving the community can count towards your timesheet. The system automatically rounds into 15-minute intervals. So, for example, if you showed up at 9:05, you wouldn't be able to put 9:05. You would either have to pick 9 or 9:15. And then round to the nearest one. If you leave your site for lunch, deduct the time out of your timesheet. So this is rather important. And a lot of people get confused, and then at the end of their term, we get a lot of complaints about, well, I never clocked out for lunch, and I always clocked out for lunch, and I was always at my site, and it's easier for us for it to be more credible if we do it from the very beginning and just keep it the same moving forward. So with that being said, for example, if you are at your site and you stay at your site your whole entire lunch period, you do not need to clock out. If you decide that you want to go to Taco Bell to pick up lunch, you must clock out. So if you leave your site for whatever reason, you must clock out. If you're staying on site, eating your lunch there, you can stay clocked in for that time. Again, if you have any questions about it, feel free to email us and we'll definitely get it cleared up. But if you're staying on site, then you can log those hours in your timesheet. Okay, so now let's explore together. So if you do have access to smartphones or a computer, we do ask that you use it now and you log into your account. So you'd be going to www.americorps.equalheart.org. Your temporary information is going to be your username, which is the email that you put on your application, and then the password, which is going to be your start date. So for example, if your start date is May 30th of 2019, you would put 2019-05-30. Very important that you include the dashes. So if you want to update your account information, you can click on this gear right here and type in the new account information that you would like to use. So feel free to change your username, password. If you want to make it into something that it will be easier for you to remember, once it turns green, then it means that those changes have been saved. So home screen functions. So of course, the gear to update your login information. The daily button is to enter your time daily, and this is what it looks like. Pay period view is to enter your time weekly and also to sign and submit your timesheet. And that is very important that you must be in pay period view to submit your timesheet. Right here, it will actually say total hours. So that is where you would be able to see your total amount of service hours that you have logged. And then, of course, log out if you are done viewing your account. So how to enter time. On daily view, which is a better option for smartphones, but faster, but it's always faster to do it than pay period view, so it'll show you the full 2 weeks that you've been serving. Enter the hours for each day, and then use the arrows to move from one day to another. So if you click the blue left-hand arrow, it's going to take you back a day. Click the right arrow, then it's going to take you forward a day. After daily hours are entered, the system will automatically calculate the total hours and put it into service. You would click save. You would click submit to save the updates. A little pop-up box is going to come up saying the total amount of hours you served and like congratulations. That's how you know you've saved it correctly. So important things to note about, a couple questions that I get about this. If you are seeing a negative number for total hours whenever it automatically calculates, that means that your AMs and PMs are incorrect. So remember, AM for the morning, PM for the afternoon. So if you're seeing a negative number, check your AMs and PMs. Another thing that we commonly get is people logging out on their lunch out. So make sure that whenever you clock in, you're doing it on time in. Whenever you clock out, you're doing it on time out. If you leave for lunch, a doctor's appointment, or if you just leave your site in general, this is where you need to be clocking in and out for lunch, doing doctor's appointments, or if you're just leaving for, taking a break, that's where you'd be doing that. But whenever you're leaving for the final time in the day, you'd be doing the time out. Now, if you are logging your training hours, so for example, the time that you're spending watching this webinar should be counted as training hours. So it should be counted as 1 hour in this training area. It will automatically go to service, but what you can do is backspace it out and move it over to training. It must equal the total amount of hours that you have already inputted. So for example, if you watch this webinar and it's an hour long, then you would put 1 hour here and 4 hours in service. After that, you would hit submit and it will save your information. So how to enter time on the pay period view. Again, remember that you must be in pay period view to be able to submit your timesheet. And also this is a little bit quicker of a way to be able to submit your time since you do see the full 2 weeks for that time. So changes that are saved will obviously be saved in green, but it is still important to hit the update button for it to save completely to the account. Just like the other way, just like the daily form, it will automatically calculate your hours, and if you receive negative numbers, check your AMs and PMs. So then once you have all the information entered, then you'll be going to the very bottom of your timesheet, typing in your name in the box, and hitting authorize and submit to your supervisor for approval. Now, it is very important that you type in your name exactly as shown in the box. So the text that is in there right now will be shadow text. That is why it is gray, and if you click on it, it goes away. So it's not already filled out for you. You do need to type in your name in there. But if you are getting an error message saying that the signature does not match, then clear out the information that is in the signature line and look at the information that it's telling you should be in there and type it in exactly that way. It is case sensitive, so if it is all lowercase, then it needs to be all lowercase, and if it is uppercase, then it does need to be uppercase. So after you submitted it, it will be sent to your supervisor for approval. They do have the option to send it back to you if there are changes that need to be made. So for example, let's say you forgot that you didn't work the 4th of July and that's a holiday and you didn't serve that day. So they will send it back to you saying that you need to delete the hours on that day. And then from there, you would be responsible for sending it back in. So once your timesheet is submitted, your pay can be processed. If it is not submitted by 5 p.m., then your pay will be delayed. Okay, final remarks and swearing in. Well, actually, won't be doing the swearing in since this is an online training. So sharing your service experience, we would love to hear and see about your service experience through social media. So our hashtags are EHAMR, which is Equal Heart AmeriCorps, and then National Service Works and Getting Things Done. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and of course on Facebook. Some friendly reminders for your page. So keep personal posts and pictures private, not public. Know that staff members at your site and or students may search you on social media. Make sure that your profile picture is appropriate. Don't add children you meet on as an AmeriCorps member as friends or followers. Please avoid from doing that. If you are interested in staying in contact with them, then feel free to do so after you're done being an AmeriCorps member, but definitely not while you're an AmeriCorps member. Avoid explicit language or sexual explicit material. Avoid images promoting or displaying behaviors such as smoking or drinking. Keep politics out of it. AmeriCorps prohibits enrolled members from various activities, including trying to influence legislation or participating in or endorsing political events or activities. If you are doing so during service hours or while identifying yourself as an AmeriCorps member. So whenever you're engaging in such advocacy efforts online, you should not identify yourself as an AmeriCorps member or use the AmeriCorps logo, nor should you be wearing an AmeriCorps logo in like your cover picture or anything like that. There's a couple of reminders about social media. So of course, we'd love to receive pictures of your service or even just postings about what your day is like during your service term, anything like that. We'd love hearing about y'all's day-to-day work. Okay, and at this time, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to this email. So it's AmeriCorps@equalheart.org. It is monitored by a couple different members on staff. So if you don't hear back from us in a couple of days, just feel free to send us another message, but typically we do reply rather quickly since there are quite a bit of us monitoring that email. Of course, if you do have questions about your education award, if you have questions about your service term, your member service agreement, your background checks, anything like that, feel free to reach out to us. And that concludes our webinar of today. And if you do have any questions about what to do now after your training, I would highly recommend reaching out to your site supervisor about more site-specific training. Other than that, thank you for joining us, and I do hope that you have a very successful service term, and I hope that it is just as rewarding for you as it is for us. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.